Friday edition of the Sports Cage, live from the absolutely empty Brandt Centre. It's Barney Shynkaruk and Sharky and Mosh. We're here early. It's 3 o'clock. There is a game tonight here at the Brandt Centre again.
Quiet time.
That's why we are here. Yeah, the security staff was just going through their protocols for the evening as they get set for the Regina Pats and Medicine Hat Tigers, 7 p.m. puck drop. If you can't make it down here today, you can listen to it on 620 CKRM. Pre-game show at 6:30, puck drop at 7 o'clock.
First responder night.
First responder night.
Yes. I don't know exactly what all they're doing, but they're recognizing the first responders that'll be here tonight. And we all owe them a dose of recognition.
And I know that kind of comes across like a cheesy narrative all the time. Like, oh, yeah, you know, thanks for doing what you do and all that. But when you think about it and you watch it, especially in this day and age and where we are, the firefighters, EMS, police officers, St. John's ambulance people, all of them, even the security guards here. Like what they have to put up with on day in, day out. Kudos to you guys. I've said it a million times on this. Not a million. That's an exaggeration. I've said it a few times on this program. I could never do what they do. I could never be a nurse.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a challenging one.
Borderline teacher. I could be a good substitute teacher.
I don't even think you could do that. I'm not going to lie to you.
Phys ed?
Okay, that you could do.
Yeah. Get in the corners, muck it up with the kids and some floor hockey.
You're not doing outdoor ed, though.
Cross-country skiing, is that outdoor ed?
Well, sort of.
Downhill skiing?
Sort of. I mean, like camping and the real outdoor experience.
Oh, we didn't take a lot of propane. I don't know how to make. I'm not great. My wife, if she's listening, will contest. I'm not great fire maker guy. Bit of a nerd. All right.
You want the best fire starter in the world? It's
gasoline?
a road flare.
Yeah.
So it burns for 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute match.
Really?
So you can have wet wood, pile it up, road flare, fire.
Friend of mine told me a few years ago when we had him over for a backyard fire, when you're cleaning out the lint in your dryer, keep all that. Great. And then use it in the summer when you're starting to fire. Yeah. I still struggle. Like I'll video it next year as I grind to start fires in the backyard. 3 hours talking sports, talking life, just a whole lot of other things. It is such a busy time in Saskatchewan right now, especially tonight. We're going to run down a lot of things. The Brier has started in Kelowna, British Columbia. We're going to update what's going on there. We'll check out some betting lines.
On the Brier?
Yeah, my text messages from some of the D-gens that I run with, some guys are already like plotting these parlays for some big cake because when it was here last year, they did a heck of a job. So Brier, we got that. In hour one, though, in about 10 minutes time, Farhan Lalji from TSN is going to join us. I really want to talk about the Vancouver. Did you see what happened to the Vancouver Canucks last night? Not that we're going to talk a lot of NHL today because that's what the national networks are for. But I want to get Farhan's take on a little bit of the Vancouver debacle last night. They're up 2-0. They're down 3-2. Then they give up 2 more in the third. They lose to Anaheim.
There doesn't seem to be anything good happening to the Vancouver Canucks. Like literally the whole year has just been one fire after another.
And they didn't let Quinn Hughes go to the fore. I want to know if Farhan's got any inside baseball on that. Also in hour one, Cody Janzen, voice of the Saskatchewan Rush, is joining us tomorrow night in Saskatoon, 7 p.m. First place battle, Buffalo Rush. We do have 4 tickets to give away, Colson. Is that correct? Colson's all thing tickets. Colson will talk in my ear here momentarily and let me know if I am correct.
Yes, we have 4 tickets.
We have tickets. Right on.
Colson's paying attention.
We're doing those. Just text in. I want to go to the Rush game.
That's it. We're not going to have like a trivia question or something.
Yeah.
Or something complicated.
Just let us know how to build a fire. It's the fastest way to build a fire. Is beneficial. Hour two.
Not us, just Barney. Let Barney know.
This one, when it comes to curling and Brier, you don't have to be a diehard curling or Brier fan. I'm a passive curling fan. Love watching it when it's come. Craig Baird's joining us again. He's the Canadian historian, young guy. If you follow him on Twitter, Craig Baird Craig Baird. It's some of the wildest threads on Canadian history. The one he had the other day that caught my attention was on the Brier. And I was like, reached out to him because remember he had when the CFL would play the NFL teams.
Yes,
we had him on.
Yep, that was cool.
Yeah, he's had some awesome. So he's got this Brier one. He's coming on to start hour 2. We'll talk a little bit with him. Clutch performer, NASCAR report.
Got it.
You have a clutch performer too?
I could throw one in.
Ephram McNutt.
I think that's a clutch performer.
Regina Pat is going to join us around 4:40. This kid's story and what he's done this year, I don't want to. This is called a tease.
Yes.
Away from the hockey rink.
You got to come in and listen.
It is fascinating just because I am fascinated with this profession in life. So I can't wait to pick his brain on that. Hour 3, the professor, Don Hewitt.
Oh, looking forward to that.
He's coming. He's just going to chill with us.
Grandpa
for
Don.
20 minutes. We're going to get his take on the Riders, what's happened in the CFL offseason. We'll talk some Regina Pats. From Regina Pat days gone by. It'll just be like a 3-pack of guys sitting at a tavern, having a bubbly with Don. And then...
Don, bring the beer if you're coming. Bring the beer.
The senior... Yes, the 2 security guards walk by. Bring the beer. Smart move, Sharky. And also hour 3 senior hockey report. And it is a huge night for senior hockey in Saskatchewan. If you're out there listening, if you're watching the stream, sportscage.com, wave, you see us. We're on Twitter, sportscage.com, through YouTube, and we're also on 620 CKRM always. As Aaron Tippin said, there's nothing wrong with the radio. Senior hockey is not beer league hockey.
No.
These small towns tonight, there will be more people in Wynyard than a lot of Western Hockey League barns tonight.
Yeah. It's going to be... As a matter of fact, you can't get a ticket. It's sold out.
They pre-sold all the tickets.
1,350 tickets gone.
And they've already got allegedly, they've already gotten a letter from fire department.
That's
Fire Marshal Bill or the city, whoever in their town, whatever in Wynyard they sent it, saying, listen, you can't go over capacity. So there's one in Wynyard, there's one in Raymore, which those 2 towns are separated by 63 kilometers.
I was going to say half a mile or half an hour.
Theodore's got a big game tonight.
Yeah.
Lorburn, the other way, Kenaston, huge game.
Those are rivals. That's a big rivalry.
So we'll be talking lots about the senior hockey coming up. Senior hockey report in hour 3. Like I said, Sharky's with me. CNC Production Company is back.
Are we calling them that now? CNC Production Company?
Call them whatever they want.
No, I don't.
As soon as I say CNC, I think of a nice little press with a dabble of lime on a Friday.
Don't call me Shirley, all right?
Just don't call me Shirley. Good one, Curtis. Okay, so let's start here with you.
Okay.
Since you're here, you used to be involved heavily with the University of Regina Cougars.
Still with the hockey alumni. Yeah, still involved a lot.
What was your position with? Did you ever coach the actual team?
I was assistant coach there for 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the record?
Not great. Not great. Notice it was 3 years, not 7 or 10, just 3.
Yesterday, Todd Johnson. It's announced yesterday. Todd Johnson and the Cougars have parted ways.
They have.
Head coach. 13 years.
That's been the run.
I remember, and I don't know how many years, and I was trying to do this today, balancing 3 jobs, and I was going to check on Dave Adolph because I remember covering the Huskies for a number of years in Saskatoon. Dave was a staple there. I think he pushed over 20 years.
Oh, he's 30.
936-6262, Prairie Land Rentals text line. If you want to correct me, I'm always up for people correcting me when I'm wrong. Go nuts. I got thick skin. Unlike some people. So 13 years, when you think about coaching at a high level of hockey
in one place,
13 years is a long time.
It is. In one place is a long time. Dave Adolph does obviously hold a record. Billy Liskowicz was here, I believe, for close to that. Might have been 15. But that's a long, long time to be in one spot. I congratulate him on that. I want to say thanks to Todd. He did he put his heart and soul into the team, did everything he could to be the best coach that he could. And I want to say thanks to Todd for all the effort he put in for the hockey club. And I wish him all the best in the future in anything he does. It's coaching at the university level is a challenge. It's a big challenge. you don't have an extended roster. You got a limited number of people, limited number of bodies. You get 4 injuries on defense. You better find somebody that can backpedal. And Todd worked through all of it. So yeah,
okay.
Wish him all the best.
We will get to more on that in a moment. He's waiting for us. We got to get at it. Like I said,
don't make him wait. Let's
starting
get on
the show on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Perfect night. Friday. I talked about a little CC with a lime, maybe pressed it up. Grab a Western Pizza pie or any of the Greek favorites you like at all the local Western pizzas. From TSN, Farhan Lalji is joining us. Farhan, I started the show by talking about last night and the Vancouver Canucks. And I'm sitting there. This is a true story. I'm sitting there at home and I say to the wife, I'm like, it's 9:45 and like we're laying in bed. We're like, this is what planet are we on?
You're old.
No, like the kids have nothing going on. I flip on the hockey game and I'm like, oh, Vancouver 2-0. There's no way I'm hitting an in-game bet Anaheim to come back. I'm like, they're in a playoff push. Like I'm crazy. then they give up 3 goals in the second. Then they give up 2 in the third. And I would have been flying to Vancouver today to golf if I would have hit that bet. I don't know. How do you explain this hockey team?
Well, first of all, they're really limited, and their best players aren't there. I mean, Quinn Hughes returned to the lineup and did as well as he could in these past 2 games. I thought he's been fine for the most part. Still a little rusty, shaking that off. But, you know, at the end of the day, this team has a lot of offensive limitations. Artur Shilovs, who was last year's playoff goaltending hero, really struggled badly coming out of the gate, right? And then when they came back from 4 Nations and he had to play, he actually played really well the other night, didn't play well last night. They don't have the offensive scoring pop at all to ever outscore any mistakes. You know, every game it's a different story, but one thing is clear, they're not good enough offensively. And then defensively, you saw an Anaheim team that is really has been good this year at playing off the rush. They do manage to generate offense off the rush specifically, and the Canucks struggled in that area, right? So you give up rush chances, your goaltender isn't good, and you can't outscore your mistakes. And, you know, we'll probably keep saying it till we're blue in the face, but while Quinn Hughes does his part, Elias Pettersson certainly doesn't do his, and that makes it tough offensively for the entire group.
You know, there's been lots of conversation around Pettersson and what he is and isn't doing, and right, whether he's in some sort of funk or injury. But on top of that, there's the unsettled dressing room. Is Brock Besser going to be there? Are they going to move him? Is he going to sign? Right? Quinn Hughes is hurt. Peterson's playing like he's lost his stick. What's really going on inside that room?
Well, it's a great question, and I say that because we kind of had a sense of what was going on in the room until JT Miller got traded, right? And we knew the room was a mess, and they got rid of JT, and that was supposed to settle things down. And then there was a 4-game stretch going into the 4 Nations break where it did. That if you had gone in there, the room felt like a different place. The players, while they liked JT Miller, all understood that the current situation couldn't continue. And, you know, so everything was trending in the right direction. So I don't know that the room is an issue right now, but there is a talent issue, right? This team is really slow. They're not dynamic offensively. And when you come into the year, I mean, 2 years ago, this team was outstanding down the middle. There was so much optimism at Pettersson, Miller, and Bo Horvat. And you trade Bo Horvat, now you trade JT Miller, and Pettersson is nowhere to be found. So they have nothing down the middle at all. So it's a real challenge for them because when you can't play down the middle, it does make everybody else worse, right? Like Brock Besser, you mentioned, you might get traded, right? So they've got to make a decision there. Brock Besser's probably had that going through his mind at the deadline in more than half of his 8 seasons that he's been a Vancouver Canuck. So I don't know that part is any different than what a normal team goes through, but, you know, these guys aren't players that can create their own chances without a facilitator or a distributor, and they don't have that. So they're slow. You know, Filipino comes into the lineup, and Drew O'Connor instantly they become faster because of those 2 guys. Well, you know, those guys aren't elite players, but it just shows how slow they are that these 2 guys can come in and instantly, you know, make your speed better. So there is some uncertainty around what they're going to do, fair, but this team's just not good enough. Bottom line, they're not good enough.
Farhan Lalji from TSS joining us. It's always brought to you by the Cooperators. It's time to get financially fit. Cooperators can build your plan that works for you. Cooperators, invest in your future together. I'm how do I word this? The Quinn Hughes not being able to go to the 4 Nations face-off, what Tkachuk says after, with everything that's gone on, I don't know if that helps the Vancouver Canucks case when it's time to re-sign this guy. Is that just another little notch on the belt on, hey, it's an excuse for me to get out of Dodge? No?
No, I don't think so. And first of all, like, what the hell does Brady Tkachuk know about the situation, right? Like, it's the fact is the guy missed the next 2 games. He missed the next 2 games and was a game time decision for the next game. So, and look, I agree. I kind of felt the same way, to be honest. I didn't think that he was going to be cleared to play, or sorry, not cleared to play. Let me take that back. I didn't think the league would allow him to play. I did think that with the 2 practices he had, there was a chance he could go. It sounded like he felt good enough and that he wanted to go. I don't believe for a second, in hindsight, like, the Canucks aren't going to let their best player, like a Hart Trophy candidate, miss 2 games just to prove a point to USA Hockey. Really? Like, were we really thinking that, Brady Tkachuk? Give your head a shake. So, he couldn't play. He wasn't cleared. And, he's still not 100%. He's still shaking off some rust. It would have been pretty dangerous in hindsight to have thrown him into that environment, given what he looks like today as a player. And again, he looks good, but you can still tell there's some rust and recovery that needs to happen. So here's the deal. He's got 2 years left. He's not a guy going into his final year. He's got 2 more years, number one. And we all think there's a chance, if the organization doesn't get itself figured out, that he will leave. But I don't think this will be a part of that, right? I really don't, because next year he's going to be at the Olympics. This is going to be a distant memory, right? Like, if he's at the Olympics next year and they win, you really think he's going to care about losing a 4 Nations final? Right? Like, that's not going to be a thing anymore. So, yeah, they might lose him, but not because of this.
Shift over to football, and maybe CFL-ish or just football in general. We have things going on in Indianapolis. You've covered that, I suspect. You've been there. What's the take from there on our end? Is there anything that CFL fans, Canadian fans, should know about that's good, important?
Well, not really, right? I mean, the 2 Canadians haven't gone yet, Alec Iomanner and Curtis Rourke. Now, Curtis is not going to take part in any physical drills or anything like that, but he is going to be there to do interviews and get his knee checked and go through that process. I think Alec's going to really do well and elevate his stock. I mean, his stock is kind of varied depending on the mock you look at. I've seen him as late in the first round to high in the 3rd round, right? I think he probably becomes a high 2nd round pick. Alec Iomanner from Medicine Hat, Alberta, the receiver from Stanford. So, the guys that go to the combine all get drafted, and the guys that get drafted don't make their way to the Canadian Football League for a while. Truthfully, from a U.S. standpoint, the event is still great, but so much of the storyline becomes who's going to throw, who's not going to throw, who's going to test, who's not going to test. Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward aren't going to throw at the combine. Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe are going to throw at the combine. It just kind of depends on what your leverage points are, because the guys that are in the top half of the first round generally feel like they have nothing to gain. So those guys are going to do it at their pro day. And I think Shedeur's made a pretty good impression about just how confident he is regardless of the situation. And, he's been through 2 programs and turned both of those programs around at the collegiate level and feels he's equipped to do the same at the pro level. And I have no worry about his ability. I have no worry about his confidence and his headspace. I think Cam Ward's still probably going to be the top quarterback taken. There are some guys that can elevate. Abdul Carter, I think he got some good news that he doesn't have to get surgery on his foot. That he's not going to test right now, but he will at the Penn State Pro Day. So some of the top guys still leave you intriguing, but it's become a lot more about the teams. All the GMs and coaches are available at the front end of the combine. So when the Matthew Stafford thing breaks, and when what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers, what are the Browns and Steelers and Vegas and these quarterback needy teams going to do? The combine becomes more about that. I know for me, when I went to cover it, it was so much more about the networking. You go to St. Elmo's Steakhouse and you run into GMs and coaches and have a beer, and it's a great time from that perspective. It really is like a massive NFL convention. So I'd been away so much. Naylor and I kind of rock, paper, scissored it out. So he and Sanchez went, and I'm doing the draft.
I got a question for you on the combine around the real value that it brings to the GMs and the coaches that are looking at the players. Like the first round picks, they're not surprises. We're not sorting out kind of 1 to 32, if you will. But what they might be looking at is who's going to be in round 6 or 7. Would that be a greater way to say the depth that you're looking for in the combine?
Yeah, like the combine is just a verification tool, right? Like, will a guy run the time that you want? Will he lift as much as you want? Which aren't always an indication of football acumen, but they are an indication quite often of your preparation level and your commitment level, right? Like if you hit 5 more reps on the bench, is that making you a better football player? I don't know, but it does show that you're willing to put in the work to make the impression, right? And guys can go up or down. Like it's not going to put you in the number 1 spot. It's probably not going to put you in the top 5. But did Xavier Worthy last year with his 4.2 240, did that establish him as a first-round pick? It did. Right, there was some cachet there, fastest pick in the draft. Right, Isaiah Bond, the next Texas receiver, has said he's going to break Xavier Worthy's record tomorrow when they start running. Could that do something for him? Like you can rise or fall, but eventually they're going to go through this process. Right, they will then go through their pro days, and then you know what the coaches are going to do, the GMs are going to do. They're going to go back to the film. Right, and those physical measurements are just gonna measure where they are. Health wise, it'll validate certain things, but at the end of the day, they're going to go back to the film.
When did the pro days take over? When did that become more of a thing? Is there a player? Is there a date?
Yeah, I think in the last 5 years, because and really it's the agents that have done it, right? Because there's a lot of teams that want to say, I want to see if you're willing to compete. Right. And if you're a guy like Jackson Dart, he's the Ole Miss quarterback. And, for months we've been hearing there are only 2 quarterbacks with first round grades. Well, Jackson Dart's a pretty good quarterback. And on certain metrics, he's better than the 2 guys above him. Well, he's going to say, you know what? I'm going to compete at the combine and I'll do my pro day and everything else. I'm not afraid of the competition. Last year, Washington had a receiver, Roma Dunze, who was, a really great player and just said that, I'm going to come and compete. I'm not going to worry about everything else. And you saw him trying to work on his L drill. He did it like 10 times at the end of the combine, right? He was the last guy. Everybody else had turned out the lights. And that wasn't an exercise in trying to gain the time. It was a demonstration to teams that I'm going to work. Right. And then the agents have kind of taken some of that away because they want a posture. So, and they know a certain player, his stock can only drop. So they don't want him to trade. Go to your pro day. It'll be a comfortable environment. You can pick your receivers. You'll have chemistry. We'll script everything for you. So they just want to put them in comfortable environments. So the agents have done this, and it really has been about 5 years since it's really, really trended that way. And we're seeing it a bit in the CFL draft too.
When you say to me there's only two first round quarterbacks, all I'll immediately go to is Tom Brady. I mean, there's always that exception that proves that the rule's wrong. Tom Brady's that guy. What, 6th round? Wasn't he in the 6th round he was picked?
Yeah.
Farhan,
there's a lot of
let's not call the exception the norm, right? Like that's everybody's going to come in, and you're always going to have that player in the draft that's going to say, "I'm going to be the best decision you ever made, Mr. GM." Right? Like that's going to happen. Guys are going to grandstand. They're all so coached now, right? Like these agents bring them in, and they have former GMs that come in and interview, and they grill them and they grind them, and they tell them this is what to expect. And these guys are, they're very polished by the time they get to this point. And then, you get your top 30 meetings right after that, right, where a team gets to bring in 30 players. And you'll see a real indication of their interest level in various rounds. And then you get to really know guys in those settings, right? Like when you can do it where, it's a little less scripted and things like that. I think you tend to get to know a prospect a little better. Guys that get brought in for dinners with the coaches and management team and things like that. Like there's a lot of layers to the process. The combine used to be the end all be all. Now it's just one more notch on the belt.
Isn't Brock Purdy? Didn't he go last?
Yeah. Dead last.
Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah. Dead last. And he's negotiating a big long-term extension right now. Yeah. With the San Francisco 49ers. So it can happen. There's no doubt.
All the scouting out there, maybe there's one that slips through. When you talk about those interviews, though, I always think there's a good friend of ours, Ross Mahoney, who obviously with the Washington Capitals, and he likes when they're having those interviews with players, he likes to ask them to tell them a joke. Right? They got to bring a joke. And they've had players leave and come back to the interview with their joke. So I was wondering if the NFL guys maybe think the same way about some of the players. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they ask him for jokes, but, there's so many things where you're trying to measure what sometimes is unmeasurable, right? A couple of years ago, you go into the draft and then somehow a story leaks that C.J. Stroud's Wonderlic test is terrible, right? And it's like one of the worst ever. Now, it was a mistake, But, these types of things happen. Now they're actually changing the aptitude test. So to your point, like asking quirky questions or trying to be ahead of the curve and trying to, just think you can do it a little bit differently and get to know a guy better. And then you get a guy like Brock Purdy or Tom Brady that, you can't always measure, right? And some guys are so built for the combine process, or the underwear Olympics, as we call it. And, you go through the whole thing and a player is going to elevate because their measurables are so good. And then you screw up. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and some guys who in that controlled pro day setting can make a splash throw that'll go viral and everyone will go crazy. But sometimes, you got to look at the tape and see who's productive. And a guy that might not have all the measurables, if you just get him in the right opportunity, can hit.
Yep. Did you hear the story about the Ian Rappaport and Jordan Schultz?
No, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, so
okay.
Farhan is a
big argument.
It's a guy that's been, they've got it. They were in a Starbucks, huge argument, like a big fight. As a guy that's been in the media business a long time yourself, anything like that ever happen with you? There's probably, hey, let's be honest, because I was in it, then I left, and then I'm kind of back in it. I didn't even know what I'm doing, like volunteer hours. But I remember there were some guys sometimes that would just get under your skin. You don't want to go to their dates, basement, grab them out and give them. But anything for you?
Yeah, look, there's some guys that definitely, like there's the odd person that I deal with in different settings that kind of rubs me the wrong way. But I just have too much respect for the industry, right? Like our industry's under attack, guys. It started in 2016 with the concept of fake news, right? And so for me, like when the dust settles, even guys that I kind of side eye from time to time on certain areas, I can have a beer with them. And I'm not going to, and I also don't take myself seriously enough to go, like I have big opinions and all that, but I know it's just that. And I can laugh at myself, and I don't take myself seriously enough to feel like I need to get into a massive altercation with a guy. So not my thing.
We're always put into our place when we get home, aren't we? We really know where we rank. The kids.
Yeah. My son tells me I look weird in a hat. So now I'm starting to wear a hat more just to piss him off, just to show I can pull it off and I can wear a hat. It's like, Dad, I never see you in a hat. You look weird in a hat. I'm like, I'm gonna give my buddies at Kid Sport some love. Yeah, and I'm gonna wear a hat for a while because my hair is not helping me.
That's right. Yeah. Stick it to them when you're walking into the kitchen. Give them a little bump too. Let them know you're there, right. Farhan.
That's right.
Hey, have a good weekend, and then we'll catch up next weekend, my man.
Boys, enjoy the weekend. Just so you know, I should turn my camera around because you will see it's like 17 degrees and sunny out here right now. Because you talked about being at the golf game. If you'd hit the bet, you'd be playing golf out here. I might go later today. In fact, you've inspired me. I'm going to grab my son and we're going to go play 9 holes later today.
Wear a hat for him, though. Yeah. Live, Farhan. No,
on the golf course, I'll wear a bucket hat. They're used to seeing me in a bucket hat. They're not used to seeing me in a ball cap.
There we go.
We'll get you a SportsCage one. That's what we'll do. We'll get you something cool to wear.
Do it.
Yeah. Hit him straight. Next week, we'll find out what you shot.
Yeah.
See you, Farhan.
Cheers.
See you guys.
From TSN, Farhan Lalji, it is time to get financially fit. Cooperators can build a plan that works for you. Cooperators, invest in your future together. They bring you Farhan Lalji every week. He talked about Xavier Worthy.
Yep.
4.21.40.
That's fast.
Tom Brady was 5'18", I think, if I remember correctly. I wonder when we see someone under 4.20. It's like 4.19, 4.18.
And granted, that's fast, but you don't just sprint down a football field, right? There's a lot of elements to playing the game. So you can be super fast, and I appreciate that you might be the fastest receiver, but if you can't catch the ball or get away or get away from the defensive back in a coverage situation, you're not really a football player. You just run fast. So there's an element to that I can appreciate, but there's a greater element to being a good football player. That's what I think.
If you're watching the stream, our boy Sharky always dresses up. He always takes us to another level.
I appreciate that.
He's got his Pats jersey on. What year would that would be? Early 2000s?
I think that's when the jersey's from. But it's the autograph is Bob Poley.
Bob Poley.
Number 8, Bob Poley. And you know why he got that number 8 when he came?
No.
It was the biggest jersey they had. Drew Callender had to give up his jersey for Bob Poley. and switch numbers. There you go.
Like the kid back in the day that was wearing number 1 or 31, but he was like defense.
Because it was the biggest jersey they had.
Talk some local hockey. We got the Rush talk coming up. Time for a quick break. If you're watching the stream, we're live at the Brandt Centre on SportsCage.com. And as always, we're on the mighty 620 CKRM. Live at the Brandt Centre, getting ready for the Regina Pats and Medicine Hat Tigers. This evening, it's Barney Shynkaruk, Sharky, CNC, back at the facility. It rhymes, I'm a rhymer. Like Maestro Fresh West. Quickly, if we're going to get into Cody Janzen from the Saskatchewan Rush here, voice of the Rush right away. But I wanted to go back to the U of R talk because we kind of Farhan jumped on there.
Yeah.
Todd Johnson, 13 years with the Cougars. They mutually part ways. Announced yesterday. So new men's hockey coach coming in. 13 years is a long time to coach hockey at a competitive level.
At any level, yeah.
I go back and I'm not totally in tune with the game, but I remember Dave Adolph in Saskatoon, long time. Rob Dahm, U of A. Yeah. We interviewed him on the Nooner. What a great storyteller. We interviewed both of those guys.
Yeah.
Just great. He's in Europe. He was in Europe last time we talked.
Yeah. Wayne Fleming at U of M was another guy that coached for a long time. Dave King was at U of S before Dave went there.
Yeah.
You got to remember, Adolph started in Lethbridge. He started to play. He coached 3 years in Lethbridge, and I can't remember whether he coached before or after Mike Babcock.
I think before.
Yeah, so I think when Adolph left, Babcock went there, won the national championship, and then Adolph went to U of S. Yeah, so
was all coaches were relieved or parted ways?
So for the men's team, all coaches were relieved of duties. That doesn't mean they can't reapply or they can't. They're not in the mix to look at the head job going forward. But the coaches, the men's team right now is without a coaching staff. The women's team has also posted their head coach's
that was
position.
a temp position, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was there in an interim position because they hired her late in the year. They made the change later on in August, I believe, of last year. So they kind of patched that up with Brandy McMaster. Brandy did a great job. She got that team in the playoffs, and they played really well as a group. And they were in every game. Like, they were a good hockey club. She did a nice job there, and I think Brandy's going to get a real good look at being the full-time head coach. But because it was an interim role, they had to post it and go back out.
Text line for Prairie Land Rentals since 1986. Big or small jobs, you get to deal with the owner. 600 Albert Street. 936-6262, whatever's on your mind. Or if you want to go to the Rush game tomorrow in Saskatoon, 4 tickets to give away. Coulson will pick the winner over the next hour. Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline again and talk some lacrosse. Cody Janzen, voice of the Saskatchewan Rush, is joining us. There you see him.
Yep.
Cody, we got a first place tilt tomorrow night at Sask Place. Yes, I still call it Sask Place. But this is exciting. Like, what's the mood up there? Obviously, you're excited. Voice of the what's the mood? Is Saskatoon, the area, starting to kind of get on board with this run here?
Oh, the buzz is back. The buzz is back, right? Like, this is a 9-2 team, most wins in the NLL. This feeling hasn't been around since 2018, right? When they went to the championship, won their last championship. It's been a couple of tough years. I don't think anyone's been happy with the way things have gone over the past, well, really post-COVID and a little bit before that too. So, yeah, the buzz is back. I think the fans are starting to get excited, get back on the bandwagon. So it's a great time.
I got a quick question on the playoff format, even though we're in this battle for first place. How many teams make the playoff? What does that format look like? So, assuming the Rush win, they go to first place, who else is still in the mix in terms of getting there?
Well, there's pretty much a logjam right now with teams around 5 and 6 wins. So who they would play, I think it's Vancouver as it stands right now. But the NLL went to a unified standings a couple of years ago, meaning there's no more East and West conference. It's only one. So it's 1 through 14, and then playoffs is 1 through 8. So first round's a single game elimination. It's chaos. It's crazy. Upsets happen. And then after that, it's best of 3 series.
I like it. It's like the junior B hockey playoffs are starting. I interviewed Jeremy from the Regina Capitals the other day. Maz had, I think it was the Fort Knox coach on yesterday, and it's like that's an upset. It's like junior hockey. I love it. So Cody, you talk about that, but there's still a number of games left in the season. Like, this season stretches for a bit yet here.
Yeah, go until about the third weekend in April, right? So the Rush still have 7 games left. It's a tough schedule, too. You got Buffalo this weekend. After this, we go to Georgia and then to Halifax. We got Colorado twice this season still, and Calgary and Ottawa. So not easy by any means, but they've given themselves a nice cushion here. Like, they've put themselves in a better spot where the past few seasons have been like, you got to win out and hope for other teams to lose just for a chance at the playoffs. Like, they put themselves in a pretty good spot here. And when you're beating teams like they have, the expectations go up.
You go.
So how we've talked about this. It's been almost a year now, but just for people that haven't listened and maybe didn't catch it the last time we talked about these players. So when we got a home game on Saturday, how many of them will fly in this week? What day will they fly in? How many guys are living full time in Saskatoon?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, right? The National Lacrosse League, Barney, we've got 6 guys living in Saskatoon. So we can say that they're living in Market. The other guys are coming from mostly, British Columbia, Ontario. We got a guy in Boston, a couple in North Carolina. So there's a lot of interesting travel. Guys fly in the day before games. So generally, they'll fly in today, they'll practice tonight. They'll have another practice tomorrow morning. They call it shoot around. That's usually just a game day, helmets and gloves, stick, right? You're going through systems. They're playing Saturday night and 6 a.m. They're out of town Sunday morning. So it's a grind of a league. A lot of guys are still working full-time jobs or part-time. Remote work's actually helped with the landscape of the league. But these guys are grinding it out, and they're doing it for the love of the game. Yeah, there's some guys getting paid healthily, a lot more than, the poor rookies in this league. There's some guys making 10x that. But, for the most part, these guys are doing it for the love of the game, and it's awesome.
Cody Janzen joining us, voice of the Saskatchewan Rush here on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Now, during the week then, do they do a lot of practice? Is coach just sending them tape, sending them systems, and they're kind of going through it virtually?
Yeah, there's a lot of video, right? And so you've got basically an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator in football terms, right? Like, your D coach is breaking down what the defense needs to know. The forwards are getting their own video. The goalies are getting a scout on the shooters. They're giving it a scout on the opponent's goalies. They usually have a weekly call, kind of, so a Tuesday night call, whatever. The decor jumps on a Zoom call, whatever it is. So they're definitely planning. You got to prepare. It's almost like, it's a football format. You play one game a weekend for the most part. You're spending that entire week making sure you've got, your opponent knowing them inside and out.
So with this game this weekend with Buffalo coming in, what specifically are the Rush preparing for Buffalo? What specific things do Buffalo do that the Rush have to counteract, or vice versa?
Yeah, Buffalo's so dang good, right? They've been to 4 straight finals. They've won 2 championships. They're just deep. They've got top-end guys like Dane Smith, who's on pace for 150 points, would break the record. Josh Byrne was the MVP last year. Buffalo's just known to have offense. They score 15 goals a game. That is way more than anyone else in the league. So for the Rush, if they want to have success, they're going to have to find a way to shut them down. And really, I think you got to use that home floor advantage. I think Saskatchewan's still one of the loudest places in the league to play, and you can jump out on teams in Saskatchewan. No one's used to coming here. I know it's not minus 35 like a couple of weeks ago when road teams are coming to town, but teams hate to come here. And so you can use that as your advantage. It is so funny how much of an effect just the weather in general has on teams, because they hate it. They're not leaving the hotel. They're sitting in their bed. They don't want to do anything. And it's just a mental warfare, right? Of teams coming to Sask. They already don't want to be here. And so the guys who love it, Rush Nation, who's awesome, can get behind them. And the Rush have had success jumping out on teams early.
That's right. Lean over and yell at them in the bench.
So you're saying we need a blizzard Saturday, say about 5, right? Lock the bus up.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we've had enough snow and weather in this province, Sharky. No, it's like
my P's and Q's.
It's like senior hockey. Just get right on top of them. Yeah, just verbally abuse them. Cody, it's gonna be a good one. Hey, speaking of senior hockey, there are some dandies in the province tonight, eh?
Oh yeah.
Would you go on the road and call a senior hockey game if need be? Could you do that?
Oh, absolutely. Come on. I got to spend my time after I was done playing hockey. I got to experience the good old Banner Barn, cup of coffee in Macklin, Maymont. I loved it up in Fort Sask too, up by Edmonton there. I'm a big proponent of senior hockey. I mean, Barney knows that. World Hockey Report, we're on it too. I'm all for a good rink burger and senior hockey game. There's nothing like it.
I'm trying to get boots on the ground in Wynyard tonight for that Round Lake Wynyard game. 13:50.
Sold out.
Pre-tickets. So I think I'm gonna do the old, hopefully no one's listening, I'm gonna do the old sneak in on the Zamboni trick. After he dumps the snow, hop on the back, and then just get in that. Cody, have a good call tomorrow night, buddy. Looking forward to seeing how this one shakes down. Exciting times up there, and then we'll catch up in a couple weeks.
Fellas, always a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks, man.
Voice of the Saskatchewan Rush, Cody Janzen, big hockey guy as well. It's exciting up there again.
You know what? If you're in Saskatoon, get out, watch your Rush. Great team. First place battle. What more could you want?
936-6262. We got a 4-pack to go to that game. They're not hard tickets, they're email tickets. So it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you have email and strong internet, hopefully from Access Communications, we can send those to you. You can go to the game tomorrow night. Colson is taking care of all that back at the fort. Let's take a quick break. It is the Sports Cage live from the noisy Brandt Centre. Why wouldn't they just clean and do everything when we're here?
Yeah, driving a little cleaning Zamboni around in front of us.
Streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. We're live at the Brandt Centre here on the Sports Cage. This is fascinating. If anyone's from Regina, you know the issues that we have with our roofs at the Cooperator Center and at the Brandt Centre. The roofing repair guys are walking by right now.
Yep.
How's it looking up there,
Good
boys?
looking crew, by the way.
It's looking good up there now?
Yeah.
How many pails inside tonight? For 0. How many tarps? Any new tarps at the Cooperator Center? No? You guys are doing a heck of a job. What's your name? What are your names? Anthony, Mike, Theo, and Justin.
Good work, boys. Good work.
Take the rest of the day off.
Yeah.
Go have a cold one. The roof crew.
Love it.
Beautiful. Quickly, let's go down what's going in the hockey area tonight here at the Brandt Centre, obviously. Medicine Hat, puck drop, 7 o'clock. Western Hockey League play. Moose Jaws and Swift Current. Just going to go through the East here. Lethbridge and Brandon, Calgary, Red Deer. AAA Midget, Patsy's PA, Warren Fry. Thank you very much. Shout out. He sent it to me. They start Sunday, 7:15 at the No Tarped Cooperator C6. Estevan's going to play Moose Jaw. Warman's going to play Swift Current. Tisdale Blazers. They'll start on Monday. SJHL tonight. Melville, Weyburn. Melville, 9-game heater. Humboldt, Yorkton. Yorkton's only one back of Weyburn, so both of those games mean a lot. Humboldt, one back of the Battlefords. It's getting tight in the SJHL. Flin Flons at Melfort. Estevans at the Battlefords. Kindersley is in Nipawin. Prairie Junior Hockey League, Junior B. Playoffs start tonight in the South. The Billy Johnson Conference. Rebels, Fort Knox, 7:30. Get there early. There's also a big festival going on in Fort Knox. Pilot Butte and Regina Caps tomorrow, 7:45. Senior hockey, we got the report coming up later, but there's big ones in Wynyard tonight. Theodore, Raymore, and Lorburn. We're up against news. That's an hour in the book, so we'll be back hour 2. We're going to start talking curling. It is a Sports Cage live from the Brandt Centre. He just filled you in on everything you need to know about the Sports Cage. Text us 936-6262. What are you doing? What are you thinking about tonight? Are you coming to the Brandt Centre where Sharky and I are, or the Pats and Medicine Hat Tigers? Are you going to Weyburn? Yeah. Melville's in town. Huge game in the SJ there. Big game in Yorkton. Humboldt's in town there. Flin Flon and Melfort at the Northern Lights Palace.
That's big. That's huge. That's a Northern Division. That's a big 2-pointer up there.
Always take your
swimming trunks.
That's right. Northern Lights Palace.
That was going to be a trick question. Whew.
Prairie Junior Hockey League as well. Fort Knox welcoming Assiniboia. They got the carnival going on. What did you ask about the carnival?
Yeah, what is the carnival? You said the festival.
Like festival.
You said festival.
Carnival, festival, semantics.
What's happening? What's happening?
Sorry, buddy. I don't have the full rundown of what's going on. I just know it's a big event out in the fort.
Go to the fort, big event. Don't know what's going on, but it'll be fun.
the Squire.
Squire's not there, is it?
And an ice sculpture.
Squire is an ice sculpture now.
No, it's so that's a 7:30 puck drop there. Senior hockey, I teased it quickly. Wynyard sold out. Round Lake, trying to sweep the Wynyard Monarchs. Also down the road in Raymore, the Rockets trying to stay alive against Lumsden. Up in Lorburn, Kenaston, Lorburn game 3. In Theodore tonight, we got a big one as well. That is, what else do we got? Radville Cupar, game 2. Redvers Milestone, game 2. Mooseman at Langenberg. It's that time of the year.
It's my favorite time of the year. And love senior hockey playoffs.
And here's a tip.
What do you got going on?
I like to gamble on sports.
You'd have a small addiction.
But I got 2 buddies that are just all over the Brier. Okay. And it starts tonight.
That's right.
So if you're going to a Canadian brew house, maybe take in the prime rib special this evening, the tankard specials, 2 locations in Regina, 1 in Moose Jaw. Watch some curling, sprinkle on some curling. It goes down tonight. Saskatchewan doesn't play tonight.
Manitoba playing? Carruthers?
Yeah, Manitoba against BC. The BC's the home team.
Where's it at this year?
Kelowna.
Okay. Regina native, former U of R Ram, Callan Schneider.
Yes.
He's on one of the Manitoba teams this year. He's trying to represent every province after representing Saskatchewan and BC last year.
Catlin's a beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So we'll cheer for him on the side. We got 2 Saskatchewan rinks, McEwen rink and the Collider.
McEwen's got a heck of a team. Like, he really does. He was in the final last year. There's no reason he shouldn't at least be in the final this year. And he has a great shot at winning this thing. And that would end the so-called Saskatchewan drought.
I am so tired of 1980.
Rick Folk.
1980. The last we get it. We get it. The last time Saskatchewan won the Brier. Maz was talking about it yesterday.
Yeah, I heard him. Yeah.
Maz is also talking Telemiracle. We got to talk some I got a great Telemiracle story. Remind me.
Okay.
For the end of the show.
Look forward to it.
Western Pizza on a Friday night. I know it sounds great. Pickup specials all around. All the Greek favorites you love. Maybe a souvlaki, a salad.
How about an all dressed?
Greek ribs, dry ribs, some wings. Visit your local Western Pizza. Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. I enjoy this guy's work on Twitter and on his website so much. Joining us again here on the Sports Cage, Craig Baird. Craig, I got to tell you, man, I saw there's been so many of them, and I go down and I'm like, I got to reach out. I got to get him on the cage. And then and then it was the Brier one. And I'm like, with the Brier starting today, I had to go down. So what day did this one? This came out a few days ago, but I'm telling people it's at Craig Baird.
I see that. I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah. On Twitter. Thanks so much, Craig, for being here again. This Brier one, like, how long would this take you to put together this 14 threads on this?
That took me, I think, about an hour and a half of research. At the same time, I was writing an episode for my podcast about the Brier, so I was kind of doing them both at the same time, but usually about an hour and a half because I got to find pictures for them. I got to fact check everything. So that's usually what it takes.
Okay, let's start for people out there, and then they can go and check out the thread. How does the Brier start?
Well, the Brier starts because essentially people wanted to see who was the best curler in Canada. So you had all these provincial championships, but there wasn't really like a Western and Eastern championship. And what eventually happened was I think they're still around, but McDonald Tobacco, they decided to sponsor a Western team from Winnipeg going east in 1924, I believe, to kind of just see if there was a market there for some sort of national thing. And they found there was. So in 1927, the first official Brier occurred, but it was a bit different. They didn't have like a round robin, or they had a round robin thing. It wasn't really a playoff thing. It was just whoever had the most wins. They played to 14 ends, and places like Toronto and Montreal had teams, and Saskatchewan represented all of Western Canada, not just the province. So it was a little bit different that first year in 1927, and it was played at the Granite Club in Toronto, and that's where it was actually played for the first 14 years or so.
Wow, 14 ends. 14 ends they used to roll.
So what kind of scores would we have at 14 ends? Like what were they scoring higher? Were they not as good? What was the detail?
They were higher. They actually only did that the first year. Then the second year, they went down to 12 ends, and they kept that until, I believe, 1977. And then they went down to 10 ends just because they wanted to be a bit faster. People were kind of starting to get a bit bored after 12, and they wanted to speed things up. And so they went to 10 ends in 1977. And that was when Quebec won their first Brier.
1936. You have here, that's when Prince Edward Island, British Columbia, they joined the Brier. Newfoundland followed in 1951. It all stayed, though, at the Granite. Like, it didn't move around, right? It was just always there.
Yeah, so it was always at the Granite until, I believe, 1940, and then it went to Winnipeg, and at that point they decided they're going to keep moving it around Canada. And kind of, it's funny that Toronto hosted 14 Briers and has never hosted it again since 1941. It's been everywhere else, but it has never been back to Toronto, which kind of started the whole thing. And then it started to, move around Canada at that point. It did take a break during the Second World War, 1942 to 1945. There were no Briers. And during that era, Manitoba pretty much dominated. I think they won about 18 Briers over the course of about 25 years. And Saskatchewan actually did very well in the 1960s. They won 4 Briers between 1959 and 1963, I believe.
The Richardson family. Yep. Very well known here in the city, and very successful curling family.
1946, CBC takes over, but radio.
Curling
yeah, so it would have just been over radio. Yeah. So they would have been describing what was happening, which isn't as great as watching it on television.
Without a doubt. Now, I got a question in terms of when they went to the stadium setting. So we talk about going to Toronto for all those years, Granite Curling Club. So it was in a curling facility. Mm-hmm. At what point did they say, we got to put this in an arena setting?
I think that started to happen when you started getting into the television era, because you wanted that larger crowd for people at home to kind of feed off of. So when you started to get into other places that weren't small curling clubs, you started to get into Edmonton and Regina and, Quebec City and all these other places which had the larger venues. Then you started to get more of that stadium aspect. So that really started to come about in the 1950s, 1960s.
1977. Is when it changes to 10 ends.
Okay.
Also, McDonald Tobacco says we out. So is that when they change from darts to beer?
Yeah, that is pretty much. So what happened was in 1977, McDonald's said, okay, it's costing too much for hotels and accommodations and transportation. So
You're a tobacco company.
I know. In 1979, they're like, in 1979, we're not going to be sponsored anymore. In truth, it was because there were new laws coming in relating to advertising tobacco, so you couldn't have McDonald's advertising one of the biggest sporting events in the country. So then, they went from tobacco in 1978, and then 1979 was when you had the first Labatt's Brier, and that continued all the way till 1999.
So I have a question related to the tobacco thing. When did they stop allowing them to smoke on the ice during the course of play? Like, I can remember when I was younger, they're playing and everybody's got a dart going on the ice. And I'm like, that's not very athletic, is it? That you can dart while you're playing the game?
No, I actually put up a picture today of the 1968 Brier, and there is somebody who's crouching down looking at one of the rocks, and he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. So I think that progressed until about the early 1970s, and then there was no more ashtrays on the ice.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
And then it was the Nokia Brier for a long time, and then it was the Tim Hortons, and then now it's the Montana's Barbecue and Bar Brier. Where is anything from your research on this? Craig, is that Craig Baird's joining us talking. He's a Canadian historian talking about the Brier. Anything that surprises you? Like maybe you said it, the Brier hasn't been back to Toronto. Anywhere that hasn't hosted it, maybe that you were like, that's interesting that that's never been hosted there.
I would say Toronto's probably the biggest one, just because it is, it's a major city. Also, the fact that Montreal has only hosted it once, and it was in 1977, and it was fitting that Quebec actually won their first Brier there. But it's kind of odd that these larger cities don't seem to host the Brier. But at the same time, Western Canada tends to dominate the Brier more often than not, or at least typically. And so you get a lot of Western Canada hosting the Brier and less Eastern Canada, although I think next year is St. John's. So, but yeah, I'd say Montreal and Toronto not really hosting it is surprising because they're two of the largest cities in Canada, and you think there would be a lot of interest to having it there, especially with the facilities they have.
When you talk about places that have hosted, and you were mentioning places that haven't hosted it, but where's the most obscure place they've taken the Brier? Have they gone to Dawson City? Have they gone to Whitehorse? Have they gone somewhere like that maybe we wouldn't think they would drag the Brier to?
They haven't gone to any place like that in terms of the north, which is unfortunate because you do have the territories competing in the Brier. You would think that they would be there. I would say that Kelowna, even though Kelowna is a large city, but in terms of it being a relatively small place compared to other places, it is surprising they've not only hosted the Brier, but hosted it a couple times. Red Deer, Alberta is another good example. It's right between Edmonton and Calgary. It's only hosted the Brier once back in the 90s. So there's certain smaller places that have hosted the Brier that you just don't typically think they would host one of the biggest sporting events in Canada, but they are there. But then at the same time, Toronto hasn't hosted since 1941 for some reason.
Has Brandon ever hosted it?
I'm sure they have.
Brandon, Manitoba. Do we know? I know that's a tough one. But that'd be a great spot.
Brandon has. Yeah, Brandon hosted in 1963, 1982, and 2019.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that long ago.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Look at you. Can't even put you on the spot. Okay, so
the smoking question did put him on the spot. I'm taking credit for that.
Alberta has won the most Briers, 29 you have here, followed by Manitoba with 27, Ontario with 10. Now, who, as far as individuals, how does it go from like maybe 1 to 3?
Well, Brad Gushue has won 6 Briers, so that's the most of anybody in Brier history. And then you actually have 4 people who tie for 4 Briers each. So you have Ernie Richardson, Kevin Martin, Randy Furby, and Kevin Coe. And so they're the ones who kind of take up spot number 2. But Brad Gushue is number 1 with 6 Briers. So he's well ahead of the pack.
Besides the territories, have any provinces never won the Brier? Is there? I mean, Saskatchewan's in a drought of droughts. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, really? When's the last time we won it?
Sorry to bring it up. Sorry to bring it up. But is there any provinces that actually haven't pulled one off?
Yeah. So other than the territories, New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island have not won the Brier.
Okay. Okay. As far as attendance wise, which one holds the record?
That's actually 2005, the first Tim Hortons Brier, and it was held at Rogers Place in Edmonton, and it actually holds the attendance record. It was 281,000 people attended, and the next highest is Saskatoon in 2000, which had 248,000. So there's a significant gap between number 1 and number 2.
I remember that Saskatoon one. And when Saskatoon, just how we are from up there, it's like when Edmonton beat us, it was like, oh, let us hold on to I don't know. This is anything else we're missing? Any fascinating pieces for our SportsCage listeners that we're missing from all this Brier history talk?
I think probably the most interesting thing I found was the fact that the Brier name actually comes from the very beginning. McDonald Tobacco actually had a brand called Brier because Brier wood is what tobacco pipes were made out of. So that's where the word Brier comes from. And it's just really cool that even though we've had so many different sponsors, we've always kept that name, the Brier.
You know, that is going to be the trivia question of all time. I'm going to take that with me wherever I go. I'm going to look like the smartest guy in the room because I've listened to the SportsCage.
We talked about it last year with Craig Adam. I remember talking about the pipe or the wood.
The Brier.
Yeah, that's what they need to do at one of these Briers of a retro night. The guys are allowed to dart.
Sweaters.
Big
sweaters on.
Put a pipe. Drink.
Corn brooms.
Whatever
Get
you
the corn brooms going.
Yeah. You can find them, like I said, on X. It's at CraigBaird.com. I'm going to retweet this actually from SportsCage right now, so for its people can go and check it out. You do fantastic stuff. Again, thanks so much for taking some time today, and we're definitely going to have to bring you on.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yeah, right on. All right, have a good weekend.
Really cool.
Go Saskatchewan at the Brier, 1980.
Thanks, Craig.
See ya.
Canadian historian Craig Baird. I just retweeted it if you want to check it out on the SportsCage X. Yeah, that Edmonton Brier, though, I remember and they demolished.
Yeah.
Like, what did he say, by 30-some thousand?
Yeah. Well, it's a lot more people could fit into the arena up there than can in Saskatoon.
Oh, Rexall Place.
Yeah, but it's cool of where it's been and where it hasn't. To me, it's kind of not surprising that it hasn't been to Toronto, right? It's a very different city in lots of ways.
When is the last time you were in Toronto?
A couple of years ago.
I was at the Grey Cup there. I don't know, was it 8-9 years ago?
Yeah.
You would have never known that was going on.
No.
Which, and I get how some people are like, it's because it's the CFL, because it's the Grey Cup. But you would think when you walked into the airport, when you walked downtown, like there'd be some sort of, they could give a rip.
No.
They're so far up their own, you know what? Whatever.
And Montreal's not far behind with that.
At least Montreal's kind of cool. It's like you feel like you're kind of in Europe. I couldn't afford to go all the way to Europe, so I went to Montreal. I've never been to Quebec City. I really want to go to Quebec City.
Well, it's a great time to go.
I heard there's some awesome golf courses, especially in the fall.
I'd love to go. That'd be outstanding. Can we take the SportsCage to Quebec City? And
we can't even get to Swift Current. We've been trying to go to Swift Current for how many years? A year. I don't know how long.
We need a sponsor. Can we get a sponsor so we can take the SportsCage on the road?
You want to get a sponsor for our coffee cups?
We get a sponsor for our coffee cups because we have to kind of hide them here when we come in and we have our coffee. So if Donnie Urin is listening over at Extreme Hockey and Sports, would like
the busiest guy in Western Canada,
donate a couple of coffee cups. We would love to have some Yetis, some SportsCage logoed Yetis for us.
Yeah. We're live at the Brandt Centre, Pat's Medicine Hat tonight, 7:00 puck drop. We're going to take a break. We come back. We got Clutch Performer and the NASCAR report. It is a SportsCage streaming on X at sportscage.com. And as always, on the radio, 620 CKRM. Clutch Performer time. Next service in Emerald Park. I'm going to get in Clutch Performer to those four or five gentlemen. Four gentlemen fixing the roof here at the Brandt Centre. There's some Clutch Performer action right there.
No tarps, no buckets, nothing tonight.
It's an old building, a little cracks and this and that. There's a lot of snow this year. When this melt starts, it's not good.
This building's almost 50 years old.
And you want to build a donut around it. That's your expand the concourse.
It's one of my ideas. I lay awake at night having a lot of these ideas.
You're like Kramer with the bladder. Kramerica Industries. Okay. Also, Clutch Performer Colson chucking it over to you. I heard you got one over there, CNC.
Yeah, since I'm the only guy on the show that's going to talk basketball, so...
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So, yesterday was now kind of officially become Steph Curry Day. He scored 56 points, which is pretty good by anybody's standards, but he's also had two performances of 40-plus points. I think the first one was 2013, the last one was 2016, and then this year. So he likes playing on February 27th for some reason, but yeah, big showing off. And then, yeah, the stats that Curtis has up there beside him is also just how far ahead he is of everybody else on other three-point stats. So I think, 9+ three-pointers made in a game. He's got 45. Everybody else who's ever done it together, there's 49 times. So
that could also be a little cool bet heads up of the day. Next year on February 27th,
take Steph Curry.
Take the over on Steph Curry's point total.
Love it.
Depends what it is. Good one.
Put
Good
that
one,
in your
Colson.
Yeah.
I was also going to go with Ryan Strome or Troy Terry from the Anaheim Mighty Ducks
3
on
points.
that comeback from Vancouver. Oh, you Canuck fans last night. Flames fans are like, yes. Canuck fans are like, what the heck just happened there?
Oilers fans are going, where is Connor McDavid?
Oilers are in a funk.
Yeah.
I might have to get Cam Moon on next week. Talk a little Oilers hockey. Anyone else? Clutch performer before we end? We're good. Clutch performer for Nick Service in Emerald Park. Your local Massey Ferguson, Challenger, Rogator, Gleaner, and Fent dealer. It's that time of the year almost. You need anything seating wise? Nick Service 781-1077. Quick pause. 3, 2, 1. Let's go to NASCAR.
We have
The SportsCage NASCAR Report, where rubbin' is racing, is brought to you by Croft Electric. 27 years of trusted, reliable home, farm, and commercial service for all your electrical needs. Visit croftelectric.com and on all socials.
Wow, that's a start. I love that. That's very nice.
You're easy to please.
I am. There's not much in my life.
I saw you toilet bowl shopping a couple weekends ago. True story at Lowe's.
That was a great addition to the house, that new toilet. It's been fantastic. Race 2 of the season for NASCAR was in Atlanta last week. Another great track, a speedway track, so fun race to watch. Christopher Bell was yellow flagged the winner.
George's boy.
So kind of a controversy in my eyes last week in Atlanta, and I actually talked to Crofty about this during the race. So Christopher Bell, Carson Hocevar, Kyle Larson are in a dead heat on the last lap. They are super tied, and there was a crash behind them. So the rule is in NASCAR, once you go to overtime, that white flag comes out for the last lap. No matter what happens, that's the last lap of the race. So if there's a caution, who's ever leading at the caution wins the race.
As a the most passive NASCAR fan that you're going to find.
Yeah.
Although I think it's fascinating and I want to go to one. I think that is one of the dumbest rules in sport.
Well, that's exactly my point.
Golf's got a lot of dumb ones.
Those guys were half a lap back and 6 or 7 cars behind.
Doesn't matter.
Why are we putting a caution flag out?
Doesn't
matter. It's the last lap.
Yeah.
Let them race, because those 3 guys were in a dead heat. It would have been an unbelievable finish. Instead, Christopher Bell gets it because of when the light came on. And so NASCAR, I think, has got to look at that. They got to go to the film. They got to get something different. So, little unhappy with the Atlanta finish. Not that I had money on anybody else, but unhappy with the finish.
Former Blue Jay great son wins a race, though. Where are they this weekend?
This weekend, we go to Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. A road course. They're reducing the size of the road course. They've been there before. They made it smaller this year. They've gone from 3.4 miles to 2.3 miles. So made the course a little smaller, right? Don't ask me how they do that, but they just take some of the curves out and move the fences around, I guess. But they're going to go from 68 to 95 laps. So they will turn right this weekend. For those of you that think they only turn left, they are going to go to the right. It's going to be a really unique race from that. They got some new tires are running on there. The course has been freshly paved. So it's going to be fast. If you're sprinkling on the road courses, always look for Allmendinger and Ginsburg and Reddick. Your guy Reddick. Pokey's boy, Reddick. Those are 3 guys that run really well on the road courses, although Hendrick's team won 4 of the 5 last road courses last year.
Oh, George Strait. We just let this play.
I know.
Someone pour me a whiskey.
All my exes.
So Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas is where we are. Circuit of the Americas.
Circuit of the Americas.
COTA, it's called.
Who do you take in this week?
Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott are both good picks as Hendrick's drivers there. I will look at them, but I'm kind of an AJ Allmendinger fan when it comes to the road courses. He does well.
AJ Allmendinger. That's a great handle.
Isn't it? Yeah. There's a lot of great handles in racing. Bubba Wallace. Love Bubba Wallace. That's a great handle.
AJ Allmendinger. Sounds like he would have been a bigwig on like back in the Titanic.
I'll bet you the guy's 5'3". Like, he's just a little critter.
Mr. Allmendinger.
Before we sink, Mr. Allmendinger, would you like another
good cocktail? Last name?
Yeah.
I've always said I love old school last names. As soon as you hear what's the rich family in the States?
I know what you mean. Rockefeller.
Rothschild. Love that handle. It's a good last name.
Yeah.
I've always loved Shoemaker. Because you know what his ancestors probably did back in the day?
Shoemakers. Yeah.
Shoemakers.
Yeah.
Fiddlers. I don't think that does anything.
All kinds. No, it does.
Does it?
That's where some of your name came from, is what you did. You were called Joe the Fiddler.
And if the guy was a roofer,
Joe Roofer.
fiddler on the. Time for a quick break. It is the Sports Cage live from the Brandt Centre.
Thanks, Crofty, for the NASCAR report. It was great.
Yeah, Croft Electric. Always bringing us the NASCAR report. 27 years, trusted, reliable home, farm, and commercial service for all your residential, electrical, any kind of electrical needs. CroftElectric.com. We got good gear, good hats.
Great stuff. I missed my hat today for the report.
I wanted to talk to Crofty today.
What did you want to ask him?
I can't remember now. What's Allmendinger? What's that guy's name?
AJ Allmendinger.
AJ Allmendinger.
Sprinkle a little on the Allmendinger for Circuit of the Americas on Sunday.
The Allmendinger boys. It's the Sports Cage live from the Brandt Centre, streaming at sportscage.com.
It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend.
The boys back in the studio. You never know what they're going to throw at you. I have no idea what song this is.
Just because we can't reach you right now doesn't mean we can't fix this later.
It is Friday. We are at the Brandt Centre. The Pats, Medicine Hat Tigers tonight, 7 p.m. If you can't make it here, you want to listen to it on the radio, 6:30 pregame show, 7 o'clock puck drop right here on 620 CKRM. So much going on in the area. 936-6262. Prairie Land Rentals since 1986. Deal with the owner on 600 Albert Street. Text line if you want to chime in. Jeff and Ituna, shout out, buddy. I forgot about this one earlier. He texted and he's like, shout out to all the minor hockey teams and kids in their playoffs. That's right. It is big for minor hockey as well. Special one for my daughter and her U13 Parkland Fire team. They're on the road to Milestone for game 2 of the best of 3 today. 5 p.m. puck drop in Milestone. Must be a senior game after. So 20 minutes.
Could be. Yeah. 20 minutes to puck drop.
Girls are doing their warm-up, last-minute prep there as well. Senior hockey story, Wynyard tonight. That's where I'm hopefully going to try and get some boots on the ground for that Round Lake Wynyard game. Sold out, pre-sold tickets. Going to try and sneak in on the Zamboni. $13.50. I got a story about playing in Wynyard. You got a story about playing in Wynyard.
So 1993, playing in Wynyard. A buddy of mine's running the team in Kenora, the Kenora Cobras as they were at that time. And they got to play in Wynyard, but they're short bodies. And so it was a bigger fine to default the game than it was to use illegal players. So he phones me, he says, can you get 3 guys to come to Wynyard on this Wednesday night? So me and a couple other guys, one guy had to borrow equipment. So the 3 of us went to Wynyard. My buddy Corn Dog and I were on the ice the whole game, just about the whole game. We couldn't come off. We were illegal players. Wynyard protested the game, of course, won the protest because we weren't signed up. So today I'm getting a ride from a guy who says, I used to manage the Wynyard senior hockey team for 17 years. I said, really? What years did you do? So right in the middle of when I play, I said, do you remember protesting a game against Kenora? I do, he says. Those guys used illegal players. I said, I was that guy. I was the illegal player.
Good one.
So small town, yeah. Good story.
Good one. I'll tell mine a little bit later. If you're watching the stream, sliding into the shot right there.
Sneak over, Ephram.
From the Regina Pats, Ephram McNutt joining us. We teed this up earlier. How's it going today? Hey, the season's winding down. You got the high-powered Medicine Hat Tigers coming in tonight, but no Gavin McKenna. Does the game plan change a bit?
Man, it's kind of a tough question. I think it's something we try not to think of a whole lot, but it's obviously always in the back of our mind a little bit with a high power guy like that out of the lineup. You look at a couple other guys, Pickford and Wu potentially out of the lineup as well, and again, we try not to focus on that and play our game, but I think it's almost a little bit of a motivational booster going in and play with a little more swagger, hopefully.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it sure be nice to take one off those guys in your own barn, wouldn't it? It'd be a ton of fun.
Absolutely, yeah. I always tell the boys it's kind of we should go in with a little more motivation. There's not really any pressure on us. They're a team that realistically should win, and they have more skill and a lot more firepower, and older, more veterans, and it's just we go in and no pressure, and we can pop them. So
Yeah, get cocky after, give them a little chirp.
Yeah,
You guys aren't that good. You
Yeah,
got
that's
Lethbridge, and you got Lethbridge rolling in here tomorrow night. So they got a few injuries, but it doesn't get any easier. But it kind of must be exciting, though. You know, you're a guy, you played in the league, one of the older guys in the team. Although you guys aren't going to make the playoffs, this is kind of like a little bit of a chance, a measuring stick for yourself and for the other guys to be like, hey, let's everyone give them a tug and let's get out there and play these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's coming into a team, you know, I was on the Cougars and we had a pretty good couple last years, and coming into a team that struggled a little bit, it's definitely a change, but it's kind of good for me individually. You know, I got some ice time and some looks that I may not have gotten with a stronger D-core in PG, and I'm totally happy. I've been trying to embrace that and play my game while still trying to teach some of the young guys, because our group's overall so young.
What are the road trips like playing in PG?
Yeah, not ideal for sure. Yeah, closest game is around 7 hours heading down to Kamloops.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then Kelowna's a little bit longer, and then Van and then we go down to the States a lot. Yeah, Portland, Oregon's about 16 hours, I think, give or take, and there's lots of times we do a 3 and 3 in 3 different U.S. cities, so we'd have a real long commute down and then play and travel to the next city the next night and the next city the night after that. So
please tell me you guys had a custom bus. You were just riding a regular 48-seater.
Yeah, pretty standard actually.
Oh,
it was,
no.
Yeah, no, it was nice. It was nice, pretty new. Other than that, but no sleepers or anything after the.
Oh, no way!
Wow.
No,
really?
Our old bus had sleepers, and they made a rule that you're not allowed sleepers anymore. So if you have a sleeper before, you're grandfathered. And now we got a new one, so we couldn't put sleepers in it. I think since the Humboldt thing, I think a rule was implemented. But yeah, not awesome, not having a sleeper, but it is what it is.
Wow, 16 hours. Holy smokes.
What do you do for? And some of those trips, like for days. Like, where do you do laundry on the road? Do you guys like a team bond at the laundromats? Or?
No, it can get a little greasy on those alternates, so for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Your background, your family, you kind of moved around a lot. Is your mother?
Yeah, mom's RCMP, so that's kind of been the backbone of all the commuting and all the different locations and bouncing around.
Name them all for us. Where have you lived?
been?
Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories, Aklavik, Northwest Territories, Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, Halifax, Truro, Nova Scotia. We were lucky enough. We stayed in one spot in Nova Scotia, and then mom kind of bounced around and commuted a bit. So she was in Dartmouth, Antigonish, Bible Hill, and what else? Yeah, I think. But luckily, we bought a house in Truro, Nova Scotia, and stayed there for a bit. So we were lucky enough. It was close that each transfer she had within the province, we didn't have to move a whole lot. So that was lucky, and she sacrificed a bit to commute a ton. But yeah, I've been around for sure, and now I'm back in the West here, and I was in Red Deer, and now we're in Ponoka County, Alberta, and it's I'm happy. It's a good spot.
What's your mom's rank in the force?
She's a superintendent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. That's a lot of moves. Had to be wearing a white shirt to get all.
She's a white shirt. Yeah, she got her white shirt when she first moved to Red Deer. She got her white shirt as an inspector as the OIC in Red Deer, and then she's the superintendent now. So yeah, it's huge.
Kind of cool though, because the RCMP they all train here.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of funny now that I'm back here and mom and dad have some connection from then. So yeah.
You ever played the golf course right there, the Royal Regina?
No, I haven't. I haven't been here long enough to golf really. So
I have pumped a lot of balls onto federal property.
Oh yeah,
there a couple of the holes there.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
When did your mom go to Red Deer? Just out of curiosity.
She went to Red Deer. It would have been in 2019. She went as an inspector, and then she was acting as the officer in charge, and then they gave her the promotion because the chief had left.
You want to know a funny story? I think his mom replaced Cougar alumni Warren Dosco, who was in charge of Red Deer at that time.
Really?
Yeah.
Who did he?
Warren Dosco was his name.
No, she replaced what was his name? She didn't replace him though.
Shoemaker.
It wasn't AJ Allmendinger either.
Yeah, no. No, that it was. He was probably right after or right before her.
Before her. Yeah.
Okay. What's with the pilot thing? How does this all come? Yeah. Take our listeners through kind of what you're going through, where you are. This is unreal.
Yeah, so I'm kind of finishing up my ground school right now. It's something I could start in PG, and the WHL scholarship's pretty nice. They pay for a lot of that stuff, so I've been pretty grateful in that way. And then last summer I started my in-air training. I'm pretty close to being done. I would have been finished up, but the federal government's a little slow on the medical stuff. So I was basically waiting for a medical, waiting to do my solo and stuff. But I'm gonna go in here at the end of the month and take my federal exam, and then do a little bit of in-air stuff, and then I'll have my private pilot ticket. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, but it's super fun to have something I'm kind of passionate about while playing. So
what an amazing way to use your scholarship money. Like, that's fantastic that you've used that while you're playing to get this opportunity.
Yeah. You know, that's something I kind of stress to some of the younger guys. You know, I've played with a couple guys who, you know, whether they're school guys or not, or have any interest in playing or going to school or in playing university hockey. There's so many other options, you know. I've met guys who took their air brake license and started their welding ticket and stuff like that. So I think it's something that I really talk to the young guys about. And if they don't see themselves as a post-secondary guy, there's so many other options that you can utilize. So
what a great story, Ephram. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Where do you want to be, let's say 10 years, 15 years from now?
Oh, geez, that's I feel like my life could go a lot of different ways, really. I could end up as a bum in the mountains as a fishing guide, maybe, or no, not that. But I think
trees.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you know, maybe a pilot for, you know, a big airline like an American airline or something like that, or a Swiss Air or Air France or something like that.
Are those the ones to try and get on?
Is that the long-term goal?
Yeah, I think long-term, I think that's kind of every pilot's goal. They'd love to get over to Europe. They make the big bucks and find some pretty gorgeous settings. So I think that's probably a big one, but that would be one. Or I don't know, maybe if I go to business, or I'm not really sure yet. But
what got you into this?
Well, yeah, that's kind of a question I've been asked a lot, and I'm not totally sure. I think
woke up one day and said, that sounds cool. I should be a pilot.
I think the biggest thing I can say about that would be just being in so many little northern isolated communities with mom and bouncing around on some pretty tiny planes just from a real young age. You know, I put in a lot of hours in even the right seat or the back seat crying away when I was real little. So I think just kind of having that exposure to the outdoors and little planes and stuff, I think that'd be kind of where it maybe started, but I'm not totally sure.
Have you tracked down Mr. Semple, the owner, and said, can I fly one of your planes?
Oh, man, no, I haven't. But if he's listening, yeah, that would be awesome.
Sean, if you're listening, we got an extra pilot for
Sean,
you.
there you go. Yeah, no, I haven't, but that'd be pretty cool.
The northern exposure in those small planes and all that case. So I'm like, I love aviation. I'm never going to get my pilot's license. I just think it's super cool. Now, what do you have to do? I see the float planes. I saw them in Orlando last week. Yeah. I see them in Emma Lake, and the float plane thing. Is that like a special? You got to take special training for that?
Yeah, you do. It's not as in depth as you'd really think, you know. So kind of how piloting works is you get your private or commercial, which is kind of your base, and then there's endorsements that kind of come with that. So there's float endorsement, night endorsement, mountain endorsement, stuff like that. Okay. So it's basically just an endorsement. I think it's a 10-hour course, and I haven't done any float flying yet myself. I've been on float planes, but they say it's not too much different. It's obviously all the same ideas and stuff, but that's definitely my next step. I'd like to get my night rating, then float and do that. My a buddy of mine who flies out of the same airport, he's building a really nice float plane right now, so hopefully I'll be on that this summer.
What do you need? Because we're in Saskatchewan here. This shout out, maybe hire this guy. What do you need to do crop dusting?
What do you need?
I think you need less brain cells.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. You need your commercial for sure. After that, I'm not sure if there's an ag endorsement or what that is. I know those guys are about as skilled as it gets, though, and pretty ballsy.
Oh, really?
For sure.
Yeah, they're the craziest pilots ever.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're the most unstable human beings.
Yeah,
they're more now.
Yeah,
yeah, no, that stuff's pretty crazy for sure. Yeah.
One of the Hunter brothers,
really?
The band?
Yeah, from down at Stoughton or
Shaughneman.
Shaughneman, yeah,
he does it. When they played, three of them played in the Western Hockey League. 2 of them played in the Western Hockey League. So what do you think about the movie's amazing, the story's amazing, Sully Sullenberger?
Yeah, pretty crazy story for sure. That's yeah, I can't even imagine being in a spot that I need to make that decision for sure. But
isn't that movie crazy?
That movie is very crazy. Yeah. That's a pretty crazy story for sure. yeah, I can't imagine thinking that that's your best option, but but I
her
guess
down
it
in the
was.
river.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like the human, you got to take the time. And they were like, well, no, you had enough time. And it's like, no, you got to think about.
Yeah.
Like, that was so cool.
Yeah, kind of crazy that they were trying to kind of make him look bad almost.
Yeah.
When he was such a hero. I don't know. Yeah.
Very much, very, very much a hero. Well, man, this is cool. You're an interesting dude.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I try, I guess. Yeah.
I would add that when you lived up north, Tuktoyaktuk, you
Yep.
named off a bunch of them. Like any crazy polar bear, any
Like-
animal.
Like, were you really young when you were up there?
Yeah, I was young,
Okay.
young enough to remember a little bit, but well, we have a polar bear in our movie room. Dad went out
Of
with
course. Like as a pet or
no, not alive. No, we had a rug made, and Dad used to go out with some of the local hunters and some of the guys who came from the States that would pay for these big expensive trips, and Dad knew some of the locals who would guide, and he'd go out for some of the hunts, and yeah, one of them was a polar bear hunt. So
what does Dad do?
Dad just retired. He was a correctional officer with federal government.
Really?
Yeah, he went to depot for a bit and decided it wasn't really the road he wanted, and probably regretted it after going back to corrections. But yeah, he
Those guys are no joke.
no, for
Corrections
sure.
Oh, no.
officers.
yeah. God bless them.
Yeah, no, he was in the federal prisons for 26 years, I think. So yeah, he did his time and was happy to be done. Yeah.
Seen some
Man.
stuff.
Yeah.
And Mom. Yeah. They could tell stories forever. Thanks so much. Best of luck tonight. Best of luck with the rest of the season and your career. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Great to meet you,
Ephram
man.
McNutt joining us
Yep.
here on the Sports Cage. We'll take a quick break. We're up against news. We are streaming live at sportscage.com. We're at the Brandt Centre, Pat's Medicine Hat, 7 p.m. puck drop. And as always, we're on the home of the Pats, 620 CKRM. Welcome back to the Brandt Centre, Barney Sharky. And if you're watching the stream, you see him. The Professor Don Hewitt is joining us for the next little bit. Hour 3, we're going to chat here. We got the senior hockey report coming up. And then we got Farhan Lalji on the backside of it as we get set for the Pats and Medicine Hat Tigers tonight here at the Brandt Centre. But so much hockey going on in the area. I'll just throw some of these out. You guys chime in with any memories and stuff you have.
Okay.
So as I said, Western Hockey League, the Extreme Hockey, Western Hockey League, report Extreme Hockey and Sport. Spring hockey around the corner. What do you need? If you got any team kits that you need, also baseball. Umbrella Marketing can help you out there. They're also dabbling in lacrosse.
Logo Yetis.
Lacrosse now. And yeah, they got everything you need. Extreme Hockey and Sport. So the Pats are here to Medicine Hat. Then we have no Gavin McKenna.
Yeah,
Keep in mind tonight.
They're missing a couple of bodies, apparently. McKenna's just one. Yeah.
Medicine Hat leads the East by 1 point
I thought it was more than that.
over Lethbridge.
Ooh. So
Over Calgary.
that's a big tilt for them. They can't take it off.
Moose Jaw's in Swift Current. Lethbridge is in Brandon. Calgary is taking on Dave Strush and the Red Deer Rebels. Western Hockey League tonight. SJHL. Oh, things are getting real interesting in the SJ fellas. Melville on that 9-game winning streak.
Which is neat to see.
Because they were in a
The
slump.
Millionaires.
Yeah. They were in a slump
That
for a
is
while.
great for Melville.
Yeah.
They lost their leading
Yeah.
scorer to the BCJ earlier in the league. That old bum steer. I haven't used that word in a long time. And he pieced out and went to the BCJ, and now their boys are battling. But Weyburn's in there tonight. Mapes' boys, Cody Mapes coaching Weyburn. Then Humboldt and Yorkton. In Yorkton, Yorkton is one back of Weyburn.
Big one in the Farrell Agencies Arena.
Curtis, so this would be a cue to put up the SJHL standings. Flin Flon and Melfort. Those are two of the best teams in the league. So there it is. If you're watching the stream, there's the standings right there. Like, look at it.
The Flan went on that great run earlier. What they were 21-1 or 22-1 at one point. So Flin Flon's they're a gamer, but Melfort's been number one all year long.
People are predicting this could be a final.
A league final, yeah.
Preview. League final preview. I don't think so. I think somebody else is coming out. There's just too much parity in the league. And then Estevan's in the Battlefords. Battlefords needs points. You see Humboldt nipping it there. They're one back. And then Kindersley and Nipawin. Nipawin is in next year country, but they are playing really good hockey. as of late. They're young. Everyone's proving something. All right. Prairie Junior Hockey League. The Junior B loop.
Is this a one-game playoff thing?
Are you crazy?
No, that's why I just asked. Well, what
did you think this is? ASHL?
My mother had me tested.
The Billy Johnson South Conference Rebels Fort Knox start tonight in the Fort.
Best of
7:30. Best 5, I think.
Best of 5? Okay.
It's definitely not 1. Pilot Butte and the Regina Capitals start tomorrow 7:45 at the Ritchie. That Junior B, when it gets greasy, there's always an upset.
There is.
I find the North is going on too. Like you got the North Division, then they'll play the South, the Billy Johnson Division. But that and it, the final of that, and when it's great hockey.
It is. It's fun to watch.
Pat Canadians, they know that they are taking on Prince Albert now. Shout out to Warren Fry again yesterday. He sent it to us Sunday, 7:15 at the Cooperator Center. Then the ever-popular Wednesday trip to Prince Albert, Saskatchewan for the Pat C's. Then they come back on Friday. Hopefully it's 3 games, so they don't have to go back. Estevan's going to play Moose Jaw. Warman will take on Swift Current. Tisdale will take on the Saskatoon Blazers. Okay, senior. We talked about it. We were just kind of queuing Dawn up here.
Yep.
That Round Lake Wynyard tonight in that new barn and Wynyard, which is supposed to be an unbelievable facility.
I played in the old one.
No, I thought you just retired a couple of years ago. 1,350 pre-sold tickets for that till tonight. But down the road in Raymore, 63 kilometers down the road, or up, depends where. Lumsden, Raymore. Lumsden's up 1-0 in that series. That will be jam-packed as well.
Is that a provincial series or is that a league playoff?
Provincial series.
That's a provincial series.
And what does Raymore have they basically have a budget like a AHL team?
Sticks and gas. Well, all these teams are.
Raymore, some rich farmers went to the bank there.
Well, somebody
and
took
bought some pretty big players in Raymore.
No such thing as a rich farmer. Tough year. Tough year.
You can't admit that.
Kenaston and Lorburn. 2 things. You guys ever been in the Lorburn rink?
No.
It is that.
I don't recall.
I mentioned this on the pod yesterday. It's that old school Saskatchewan, like
1960s building.
Looks like an upside down arc.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tall.
Yep.
It's a great barn. And it's going to be jammed tonight because it's game 3.
The Lorburn 19ers, isn't that what they are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That's darn good.
Yeah.
You got to give them some credit. You probably knew that name. I didn't know they were
Lorburn 19ers.
I've never been in that league. I don't think I've ever been in any of those buildings in that league.
So we have Provincial B, also Moosomin's in Langenberg, Game 1. Provincial D, Redvers in Milestone. Thus, that's why the 5 o'clock start for the girls tonight. Radville is in Cupar. Cupar will be a place to be as well. Always fun there. That's Game 2. Cupar trying to stay alive. And in the Long Lake, this is League. This isn't Provincials. Waterson, Drake. Drake leads 2-0. That's a rundown of everything you got going on. We got Don Hewitt here, the professor. Don, let's get your first synopsis, your comments on CFL free agency, the offseason for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Well, I think 2 rock solid off seasons for the Roughriders in a row. I mean, when you think of what this team did last year, they prevailed through some pretty bad injuries and still made it to a home playoff game because of the offseason they had. They didn't have to, as General Manager Jeremy O'Day said, they didn't have to make as many moves this year in free agency with their roster because of the team that they had last year, but they still made some great moves, particularly as you guys have probably already discussed on their offensive line. I mean, if you look at the projected 5 starters on the Rider offensive line right now, they are rock solid.
It's an all-star line.
You've got Tate and Hardwick.
Yep.
You got McHugh at center, and then you've got Gagnon and Furland at guards. That could be, on paper, the best offensive line in the league. And you had to watch the Super Bowl to figure out what line play does in football.
Yep, exactly. It's great that you mentioned that because I think the offensive line, we saw I don't know if you want to call it the brilliance of Jeremy O'Day, but the work of Jeremy O'Day to put the right group together and keep bringing those offensive. What did they have, like 13 or 14 guys play on the offensive line last year?
Micah Johnson.
Yeah, including a defensive lineman. A couple of them, as a matter of fact.
All right.
So I think that was pretty amazing, the job Jeremy did, especially with the offensive line.
Well, and it's amazing what Corey Mace did by hiring Coach Harrison to coach the offensive line. Because he's clearly the best offensive line coach in the CFL, and he showed it. I mean, he actually resurrected a couple of careers on his own of older players who had been around, not older, but had been around the CFL for 3 years. Nobody was really giving them much of a chance. And they got a shot at playing a bit through those injuries and did quite well. And suddenly, I believe, because of the outstanding coaching, they added more depth to their offensive line via the coaching. And so you can never say that coaching doesn't count.
Yeah.
It certainly did there.
The Tavon Campbell.
Oh, I know.
A hometown guy. And what did the Dunk say? It's about 153,000 going to count passports Canadian, putting him there. Like, I think that move right there is one. And again, I don't want to get into where Luke's predicting and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That could be one we're talking about late in the season, how it changed so many things.
Well, it gives them an opportunity to start actually more Canadians. Like, they could actually play with 8 or 9 Canadians with Tavon Campbell and the depth they've got on that team and their Canadian roster, let alone at receiver and the offensive line. Like, this is Jeremy O'Day has really done a nice job of not only finding the guys that are staying here and they want to come back, but finding the next guys that are going to come in and help them out to get to the next level.
Well, it's quite a remarkable story when you think about what's happened, because if you go to the end of the 23 season, I mean, from there, where have they gone on the football side of things? It's been huge leaps and bounds. And now you've got a situation where Saskatchewan, looks like a team, injuries aside, looks like a team that will play at home in the playoffs. They've got another team in Calgary that's going in the exact opposite direction, where players don't want to play there. It would be a surprise to me if the Stampeders weren't in last place. You got Edmonton on the rise. You've got everything riding on the quarterback in BC to see if he can come back to form or not. That'll be the big question. And you got Winnipeg. Suddenly, players departing Winnipeg for their former assistant general manager and going to Hamilton. I believe it was 8 players left Winnipeg for Hamilton.
That's odd, isn't it? That tells you something.
It's a complete reverse in what's going on in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
You don't have a happy quarterback right now, and Caleros, he's not happy at all with what's going on in Winnipeg.
I think Hamilton could be a little bit of a wagon out of the East this year. In Winnipeg, I almost feel like it's like at some point they're going to say, "Surprise! Here's a bunch of guys." It's like,
oh, you've got a point.
What's going on?
You've got a point.
Yeah,
they recruit well. They've still got McManus down in the U.S. No, you don't count them out
yet.
But at this point, losing 8 players to Hamilton and a few other teams, they look like they're on the decline, and so it's looking good for Saskatchewan at the moment.
And we could sound, and of course we are, because we're official broadcaster, like absolute homers here, and we're just pumping tires, but it is positive. And you bring it up, when you back it up to that end of the 2023 season, where it seemed like an absolute dumpster fire football-wise, to where we are now, guys wanting to play here, guys coming back, the continuity, which we've heard a bunch, the runway now. Like, there is no debating that the offensive guys that are coming back, where they start this year compared to last May. Like, you don't even need to know a lot about football, just sport in general.
Right.
You're kind of got this, you're a year ahead of the plan. The one thing that I'm wondering, and I know a lot of people were talking, we need a big receiver. We need someone that can take the top off. Maybe, but I don't know.
I don't see it.
I think we got a group there, and then they're going to be bringing in these guys that we don't know a heck of a lot about. Maybe they have something up their sleeve.
Well, Joe will be back if you like. He's not going to stick around the NFL. in any sort of realistic way.
I don't think so either.
So he'll be back. He's got height, and but the receiving core is pretty much locked at the moment, I would think.
I actually think about the receiving core. There's nobody that the defensive backs go, we have to make sure we cover that guy. Well, you can't leave, it's so spread out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's not a Kenny Lawler that you got to make sure is the guy.
You got to double him.
Yeah.
Right?
They can't double one guy because that's going to leave somebody that can play open.
As an old Patriots fan, that's kind of how Tom Brady would nickel and dime it. It's like Danny Amendola, Chris Hogan. Yeah, there was Gronk, but then there was all the Myers on the wide. It was all these and then they start throwing it out of the backfield where you go to when you had to shut down Pittsburgh, they had one receiver. Yeah. Okay, we'll just double them. Right. And that's sort of, or put Revis on them or whatever. So yeah, I like Tommy Neal, experience, Grey Cup, big body. And there were some guys last year. Myers got injured. We didn't even close to see his, worth and what he can have. Del Duncan Busby.
Exactly.
There is the biggest sleeper for the next season.
Yeah,
I just said him.
Yeah,
he's the biggest sleeper for next season. He's a huge find, a great draft pick, and is way better, I think, than even anybody realizes at the moment. If you took a look at his speed, for example, from just taking a hitch pass, a few times, you saw him last year and bang, he's just down the sideline so fast. He may have only gained 8 yards, but his speed was elite.
Was the reason
as a Canadian receiver, and I would not be surprised at all if he actually starts.
No.
This season and the biggest thing that's about the receiving core is this: the quarterback is going to have more time to throw. This season,
I agree.
And that's going to make every single receiver on the team a lot better.
You watch how he, when he had time, would go through his progressions and then pick. Like, he is savvy. And that comes with experience.
You know what, Trevor Harris?
Yeah. Like, that just comes with experience. Yeah. He's been around the league for sure. To your point, knock on wood, offensive line stays healthy. Well, now where does that go? Now you start throwing in hitch passes. You start throwing in screens. You got the running game. Then you got these receivers. Like, you have enough tools there to keep teams guessing. All the time, which is the worst.
And you know,
exactly.
The other guy we haven't mentioned yet, but it was talked about a couple times, and I think Luke Mullender is the one who said it best last time. Keyshawn Johnson, right? He still he thinks he could break out this year and really become one of those guys.
I agree with him. Yeah,
I think the problem is there's only one football. I really do. I think if we had two footballs, we'd be way
maybe
better.
They should invent a new game.
We should add a second football because of the receivers we've got.
Keyshawn Johnson is such a great route runner.
Yeah.
He knows exactly, like Mitch Picton is. He knows exactly the little hole to find in the zones. Sometimes it's a matter of inches, really.
Yeah.
And he's always in the right place.
And you say Mitch Picton, like, if something happened to one of those, if that's the first backup, that's a guy that would start on most other teams. He would be a starting slot back on most other teams. Here, there's so much depth that where do we put him? Right? Where do we put him?
Well, I mean, it's a good problem to have.
It's a great problem.
We got about a minute.
There's the big issue about the Rough Riders this year is their secondary. They need one more, elite defensive back. Leonard, I think, is still available. Played in Hamilton last year, but they need one more, either a free agent or likely will be a recruited player. They need one more really strong defensive halfback, and then I think they're set.
Nice. John Hewitt's with us here. We're live at the Brandt Centre, Pats and Medicine Hat Tigers tonight. You're sticking around for the game.
Certainly am. I'm here to see McKenna. Isn't that going to be exciting? Gavin McKenna's in town.
I got some bad news for you, Tony.
I hope there's a gentleman in the crowd named McKenna, because we got a minute.
Right. Yeah, there's McKenna's reason he's not playing tonight.
A minute left here. What's have you been to a game this year?
I got half a season's ticket.
Yeah, young scrappy bunch. Brad's got him playing. There he goes. Oh yeah, Wiener Wednesday shirt, 22.
I love it.
Shout out.
I got that from Santa. Wiener Wednesday, and I don't know how Santa knew. But yeah, I mean, the Pats, they've got a lot of young, fast players. I like what the Alan Miller did when he started to realize, these older players we have at the start of this season, they're not that fast. He went out and got younger guys and faster guys and built draft capital. I really like what Alan Miller's done.
So much draft
And
capital.
I'll hide my Wiener Wednesday
No, you
shirt
can
now.
leave it out. It's
You
awesome.
think so?
Yeah, it's awesome.
We
hide that.
got a break. We're up against the Senior Hockey Report. After the break, we are live at the Brandt Centre, streaming at sportscage.com. The Senior Hockey Report is brought to you by our friends at Future Ford in Melville. New units arriving daily and premium used vehicles to fit any budget and lifestyle. The future is Future Ford. You can see them at futureford.ca. And have you ever wanted to gamble on senior hockey? You can. Coolbet.com is where it's at. They got Big Six. They got Long Lake. They're adding leagues. Go on there. You can bet on senior hockey. It's unbelievable. Coolbet.com, sponsors of the Senior Hockey Report. Welcome back, Sharky, Barney, Don Hewitt. Thanks again so much for stopping by. CNC, doing a great job. Quick Senior Hockey Report. You heard the big voice say. Now, you don't have to sprinkle, but if you just wanted to get together with your buddies and do some sprinkling on senior hockey at coolbet.com, the odds are out. Lorburn, decent underdog at home tonight against the Kenaston Blizzards. Lumsden going into Raymore. Raymore is the underdog there. And then Wynyard's a plus 163 as they host Round Lake, trying to stay alive in that Provincial A series. You can go to the Monday Nooner podcast and listen in on the latest episode, which was dropped this morning with the fellas. If you want the senior hockey top 10, Redvers still the number one team in the province, according to the Monday Nooner.
According to the official team at the Monday Nooner.
Just a rundown again tonight. 1,350 pre-sold tickets. You can't get any more people in the facility
in
Wynyard this evening as Round Lake is in town. And then 63 kilometers down the road, Raymore welcomes Lumsden. Raymore trying to stay alive in that series. Man, I think I'm hoping that we get to see a game 3 in that one Sunday. Just so
I'll sprinkle on Raymore. I've been hot lately.
Yep. Do it. Yep. And then Sunday, game 3 in Lumsden if needed. Game 3 in Lorburn tonight. We talked about it earlier. That rink is awesome. Kenaston, Lorburn, game 3, Provincial A. Again, it'll be packed. These rinks, there are, let's say 1,350. They're probably going to squeeze 14 Hyundai in there.
Yeah.
Raymore, they'll get about 900 in Raymore.
At least.
Lorburn, they're going to get about 900 in there.
Yeah.
And then some of the Provincial B.
Q-Par's going to be packed.
Q-Par will be good. Langenberg will be packed. Moosomin's in there. Game 1. Redvers Milestone. Game 2 in Milestone. That rink, that's a great rink to watch hockey as well. And then Theodore.
I've never been in Theodore's barn. What do they got?
It's tighter.
Yeah.
Like I'd say like an old Wynyard-ish.
Okay.
Maybe,
I got that as a reference point. Yeah.
936-6262 if you
bring
want to
your own
chirp.
teeth.
If you want to chirp me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So there is so much going on. It is great. Like I said, the full rundown. We could sit here for a while if you want at the Monday Nooner podcast.com. Again, just going through some of the odds here. Moosomin Carlisle. In Carlisle. Carlisle's plus 155.
Moosomin's a good club. Moosomin. Do you remember that one?
Moosomin's really good at home.
Do you remember that one bet earlier this year that Moosomin was minus 3,333 to win?
Yeah.
Yeah. $1 got you 3 cents. Nice. So I'll tell you what, Cool Bet knows what they're doing. They know who the favorites are. I don't know how they do it. I don't know what they can pull together, but they know who the favorites are.
Yeah. So there's I'm trying to look at some of the other.
I'm putting some money on Raymore. Come on, Rockets. And you know what? I'm not a Rockets fan, but I'm putting some money on it.
Southwest Saskatchewan. Maple Creek came back, reverse sweep to move into the finals. Forgot about this little ditty. They're tied at 1 with Gull Lake. Game 3 in Maple Creek, 8:15 tonight. If a guy could teleport around the province tonight on some sort of spaceship and go and watch. Yeah, so the next time someone tells you senior hockey isn't big in the province, get some screenshots of all the barns tonight. It is Sasky. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'd love to see those come in.
We love covering it on the Sports Cage as well. Farhan Lalji coming up after the break. Again, Senior Hockey Report is for coolbet.co, free to play casino games, sports odds, and Future Ford in Melville. The future is Ford, futureford.ca. Sharky, beauty, always fun.
I have a blast. You know that.
Stay safe this weekend.
Yeah.
Again, Farhan Lalji is coming up after the break. Pats and Medicine Hat Tigers tonight, 7 p.m. puck drop here at the Brandt Centre. It is a Sports Cage streaming at sportscage.com and on the home of the Pats, 620 CKRM.